Okay, so like I said, today we're picking up where we left off yesterday. Yesterday we looked at the practice DBQ from the 2019 DBQ essay that was on the exam over the Portuguese in the Indian Ocean. Your goal yesterday in your notebook was to read through the documents, provide a very brief summary of each, in particular, how in that document the Portuguese are transforming Indian Ocean trade in some way. And then hopefully you got to the point that you did the cap, and maybe you got to the point that you did the introduction as well. What I'm thinking is we'll start off after I'm done with announcements, maybe, I don't know, five-ish, between 5 and 10 minutes. I want you to look back at the documents, okay? Because it's been a minute, you've slept since then. I want you to just glance back over the documents. Even if you didn't get done with everything from yesterday, that technically I'm not checking for a while. That's part of your notebook check. But you at a very bare minimum need to have a decent understanding of the documents so we can talk about it. So we'll do 10 minutes just looking at the documents. Then we're going to come back together. We're going to look at them together, and we're going to try to kind of identify what the Portuguese are doing in each. Because honestly, if you can learn to do that, the rest of it's going to fall in line. Again, we're looking for themes. We're looking for some basic things, in this case, that the Portuguese are doing that we can ultimately base an essay around. So that's how we're going to start. I will then project the prep sheet, compare what we do as a group to what you guys did on your own. And then towards the end of the class, maybe we'll read a couple sample essays and kind of apply the rubric towards it. Because again, if you can learn to accurately grade one of these things, you can kind of replicate that quality yourself, I do believe. Other news and notes before we start our little document review. If for some reason, I don't think this applies to anybody in here, but if you have not taken the DCA from Wednesday yet, please get that in as soon as possible. If you had, or if you would like to retake that, we are going to open up the retakes next Monday, probably at the end of the day, probably after school. You'll have Monday night, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday to get your retake done. But if you would like that opportunity, you need to talk to me. Either talk to me after class or email me. But if I haven't heard from you regarding the retake by the end of the day on Monday, you're not going to be retaking. So let me know. I know some of you guys already have, but if you would like to retake it, again, we can only get up to passing, but please let me know sooner rather than later. Lastly, we do still have the extra credit quiz in AP Classroom. Those of you that have taken it, I have not added those points on yet. I'm going to do that probably tomorrow or Sunday once the quiz closes. That way I can add all the extra credit at once. It's in there, but it is going to close 11:45 tonight. You gotta get it done within the time limit. You can get, a variety of extra points, 5 for just logging on and doing it in the time limit. Then you get a point for each question you get correct. This is highly encouraged, but it is not mandatory. Point is, if you want to do it though, time is limited. Tonight, 11:45, it is going to close. As far as grading goes, I'm still working on notebooks. Everything else, if you turn it in on time, should be in there. But I will be updating grades later today a little bit, but especially this weekend. By Monday, everything should be current, everything should be squared away, and you should know exactly where you sit in the class. So, what I'd like you to do, and let's say, I don't know, 10 minutes may be a little much since you've already read these theoretically. Let's say about 7 or 8 minutes, give or take. I want you to get back into the practice DBQ. You need to open up your prep sheet or get out whatever you're working on as well. But just get back into the DBQ and give it a good once over, okay? Look at the prompt again. Look at the documents again. Because here in about, I'd say by 9:20, we need to break down each document and kind of see in this particular circumstance how each document contributes to your writing prompt. Again, we're looking for evidence that the Portuguese transformed maritime trade in some way. So let's say 8, 9, 10-ish minutes max. Go back over your documents, look them over. If you finish early, if you want to get back to work on anything that you're lacking from what we did yesterday, that's fine. If you are done with all that, if you would like, get into Canvas and maybe start reviewing the scoring rubric, because that is something we're going to address towards the middle class. So I got 9:11. Let's say by 9:20, we need to come back, reconvene, talk about these documents. Give you about 4 more minutes. And even if you don't get entirely through the documents, get through as many of them as you can. That way you can kind of see, or at least compare some of our examples with your own. All right, guys. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go document by document. I'm not going to read like the entire thing to you, but I would like us to kind of compare what we're seeing. And essentially what I'm going to do is we go through the documents. I am going to have my prep sheet projected, and then based on the feedback I get from you guys, based on what I saw, hopefully we can kind of fill this out together. Is this too dark for you guys if you're looking at your notebook? It is kind of dark just with the rain and whatnot, but I think this will be all right. So again, you know, our whole intention, it may be too dark for me to see all the crazy stuff I wrote. So yeah, I'm going to turn this back on. Sorry about that. You know, I wrote really small and I don't have a lamp on the desk, so we're just going to have to do it in the light, but I think that's okay. I think everybody will be able to see just fine. So the DBQ that we had in question, evaluate the extent to which the Portuguese transformed maritime trade in the Indian Ocean in the 16th century. So what you're looking for, again, when you read these documents, you're looking for things that the Portuguese are doing or that people are saying that they're doing that results in them changing trade in some way. Again, we don't know how much they changed trade. We don't know if they completely transformed the trade network or not. That's what you're going to be writing about based on what the documents tell you. So everybody kind of take a look at document 1. We have advice given in 1500 by the Muslim merchants of Calicut to the Hindu ruler of Calicut concerning the arrival of the second Portuguese expedition to the city. So let's look at your prep sheet. And I've got the documents over here so I can kind of look at them simultaneously. What sort of things are the Portuguese doing in this document? Or what sort of things are being claimed that they're doing?
Take possessions.
Okay, take possessions of the sea. So they're there to take over, essentially, right? Okay. How are they doing that?
Trading posts.
Trading posts. Okay, very good, very good. Who's writing this? Muslim merchants. Did you notice in your documents that a lot of times it was either Muslim merchants or Muslim groups that were writing about the Portuguese kind of getting ticked off, or that it seems that Muslim traders came up a lot, right? They're not happy the Portuguese are there. Guys, if you recall, before the arrival of the Portuguese, for most of its history, at least since 600, Muslim traders, Muslim merchants from the Middle East and India and Indonesia, they were some of the main forces in the Indian Ocean. They were some of the main traders. So the Portuguese showing up, it's kind of messing up their game. You know, I mean, they're encroaching on their territory. So for me, you know, would it be fair to say, I don't know, causing conflict with Muslim traders? I mean, would that be something that might change the trade network? I would think so. Conflict with, and if I misspell stuff, guys, just forgive me. But I would also say one of the biggest impact is how they're doing it. It's building trading posts, which that's something we've actually talked about before. Let's put building trading posts. So here we see two things that the Portuguese are doing, right? Two things that are probably going to change the way that Indian Ocean trade looks. They're coming in, they're kind of seemingly supplanting the main traders, the Muslim traders, and they're becoming kind of the dominant force. And one of the ways they're doing that, they're building trading posts. Pretty straightforward. Let's move on to document 2. Okay, document 2, the source is Duarte Barbosa. This is coming from the opposite point of view because he works for the Portuguese. He's at what you know, a trading post along the Malabar coast, and he's basically writing a report of what's going on. So we kind of gave one thing away. Where is he at? Not the exact location, but like where is he working? Where is he writing this from? Again, once again, we got trading posts. And again, sometimes, guys, it's weird, but sometimes the source gives you just as much information as anything else. I want that in red. Okay, but what else is going on here? What are they writing about? This guy, he's reporting, you know, he's writing this narrative, and who knows who's going to read it, but you got to assume he's a government employee. It's probably not just his diary. He's probably writing this for some official record-keeping purpose. Who's he talking about? Who's he talking about that they kind of came in and wrestled away control of a lot of the trade in the region from?
Arabs and Persians.
Okay, say it again.
Arabs, Persians, and
okay, so Arabs, Persians, okay, Gujaratis. What do all those groups have in common? Think about it beforehand. They're what? Yeah, they are, but think about something else. Look in the same sentence. They're Muslim merchants. Guys, it's a different report. It's from a different point of view. It's from a different culture. But you're seeing the same sort of impact. Okay, you're seeing him building trading posts, because that's in there, and that's implied. I mean, obviously he's at a trading post, but also they're coming in and they're conflicting with Muslim traders. Hopefully you're starting to see a theme. Let's move on to document 3. Document 3, an anonymous Portuguese court official's letter of advice to King Sebastian of Portugal regarding a proposal to conclude a peace treaty and establish free trade with the Ottoman Empire. Ah, the Ottomans. Everybody hates the Ottomans. Okay, so looking at this, he's talking about the fact that, you know, the Ottomans are wanting to get more involved in maritime trade. They're wanting to dominate more in the Indian Ocean. What's this guy's advice to the king? Does he think that the king needs to befriend the Ottomans? Buddy up with them? Maybe sign this treaty? Read it closely. Is this guy a fan of the Ottomans? No, he's not. I mean, if you look, you know, and when he says the Turks, he's talking about the Ottomans. And again, there's a lot of different groups of Turks, but you know that because in the source it says the Ottomans established free trade with the Ottomans. That way they're not charging duties, charging taxes, trying to make money off of each other. Look at really the whole thing. If you look at the first paragraph, they're talking about the fact that, you know, if we give the Ottomans more trade rights, if they're allowed to come in and establish their own trading posts, man, Portugal's going to suffer. Because at this point, Portugal's doing good. They've got their trading posts in India. They're really, if you look in the second paragraph, they're monopolizing the pepper trade, the control of spices. And if you look at the very last paragraph, thus, if the Turks are allowed to operate freely, their ties with local Muslims would make them even better informed and better organized than us. He doesn't want them to be cool with the Ottomans. He doesn't want them to cooperate with the Ottomans. No, that's going to be to the detriment of Portugal. What do you remember about the Ottomans? And it says it here, but you got to kind of read between the lines. What do you remember about the Ottomans? They're a gunpowder empire. Let's add one little piece. They're kind of like the Safavids and the Mughals in that they're gunpowder empires, but what else are they? Has to do with beliefs. They're Muslims. So once again, you're talking about a potential conflict with Muslims, okay? And guys, just because I'm putting stuff up here, and maybe it's not the exact same thing you had, it's okay. There's a lot of things you can pull out of each document. There are different interpretations. That's the cool thing about a DBQ. As long as you can back up your interpretation with what's actually said, you're going to be okay. But here, once again, we've got, well, we could even put Muslim traders because that's what they're talking about, even though they're working for the Ottoman empires. But conflict with Muslim traders. But here's where it gets kind of interesting. What do they not want the Muslim traders, the Ottomans, to get their hands on? Something that the Portuguese would find very valuable, that they're making a lot of money off of. Spices. Guys, remember, the spice trade. Weird stuff like pepper, believe it or not, back then, big time luxury good. That was one of the reasons for the Age of Exploration to begin with. That's one of the main reasons the Portuguese sailed around Africa. They wanted direct access to that. So we're seeing ways that they transform trade because they're becoming a dominant force. They're conflicting with the group or various groups that were the main facilitators of trade, the various Muslim empires and merchants. But at the same time, the same sort of stuff is getting traded. Spices largely. Not just spices, but spices are a big moneymaker. What type of good would spices be considered? Something you don't need, but you might want. Luxury goods. Luxury goods drive trade. So we could say that even though they're causing all this change, guys, yeah, they come in and they're involved, but it's still the same sort of stuff that's getting traded, you know? Luxury goods are still a focus. It's still a focus of trade. Okay. Bear with me. I know that this is time consuming, but I think you're going to see that this isn't that bad. Let's move on to document 4. We have, man, this is going to be tough. Zainuddin Makhdum al-Sagar. He's a Muslim religious scholar and a historian from Calicut. A lot of this is going on in Calicut, southern India. He's addressing southern Indian Muslims. So what are they talking about here? What's he, because he is complaining about the Portuguese. What does he say they're doing? Yeah. They're taking over these different trade routes. They have a strong navy. So they're sinking ships of Muslim traders. At one point, they talk about the fact that it's they're charging them tolls. You know, they're collecting taxes off of them. And if you look at the very end, about halfway through the middle paragraph, it says the prince entered into a treaty in 1515 allowing the Portuguese to build a fort in Calicut. Sounds like a trading post to me. So again, even though it's said in different ways, you've got them once again building trading posts. You're seeing how terrible my spelling is. You could put taxing traders. And what sort of traders are they taxing? What sort of traders, once again, are they conflicting with? Muslims. Okay, so we're getting somewhere. Document 5. Let's take a look at that real quick. And, or wait, did I skip document 4? No, I didn't skip document 4. It's because document 5, they're pretty much doing the same thing. Wait, I skipped a document, didn't I? I skipped number 4. Doggone it. Well, the good thing is, if you look at it though, they're doing the same thing that they're doing in document 5. They're charging taxes, they're sinking ships. A lot of these ships, once again, are carrying spices. Yeah, so not bad. We can kind of keep that going. We'll copy and paste that over because it's the same sort of stuff, guys. And if this is getting a little repetitive, that's the point I'm trying to make. See, the College Board doesn't choose just random documents. They choose documents typically that have something in common, okay? Something in common that if you look for it, you can base an argument on. Now, just to save time, let's just kind of glance through this. Document 6 at first glance is the one that kind of doesn't fit. And this is from a Venetian trader, kind of a log from a Venetian trader. And he's talking about, he's kind of talking about how, yeah, the Portuguese merchants, they're involved, but they're kind of getting ripped off. They're not getting the good pepper. We are. But again, it just identifies once again that you know, even though the Portuguese are coming in, and even though they're trading and dominating trade to some extent, they're causing change, but then again, they're not, because it's still, you know, Muslim traders involved, and it's still largely all about the luxury goods. You could extend that argument to 7. An inlaid box made in Gujarat, India for export to Portugal, circa 1600, teak, ebony, and other precious hardwoods. That's not something you need. That's just something that people might want. Because again, even though the Portuguese show up, it's still the same basic goods that are being traded. It's still the basic people involved. They're just getting added into the mix. So I'm skipping ahead a little bit. But when you hopefully do, or maybe you already did your introduction, and we'll get more into this here in a second. We'll maybe even type up a thesis. Can anybody tell me some ways, just based on what we've seen, that the Portuguese impacted Indian Ocean trade? What are some things they did? They took over ships, you know, with their naval supremacy. What else? Oh, yeah, they made people pay like tolls, you know. What did they build in the region to help them do this? Trading posts. What groups were they always in conflict with? Muslims. There's your thesis statement. That's all it has to be. You know, during the 16th century, the Portuguese had a major impact on maritime trade in the Indian Ocean because they conflicted with Muslims. They dominated trade routes using a superior navy, and they built trading posts. That would be enough for a thesis statement. Now, if you wanted to make it a little bit more complex, you can maybe add, however, you know, the trade network was still largely concerned with the transportation of luxury goods. So they didn't like completely transform it, but they did have an impact. Because again, it is asking to what extent are they transforming the network? I don't know if they transformed the network itself, but they did cause some change. Again, you didn't know that going in, but based on what the documents gave you, guys, that's where your thesis comes from. And then the rest of your essay, you're breaking down the documents one by one and explaining how they prove your thesis correct. That's when you're kind of summarizing the documents and saying, see, look here, they're building trading posts. Look here, they're charging these tolls. Look here, once again, they're conflicting with different groups of Muslims. That's really all there is. It's pretty straightforward. It's just frustrating because it takes so long. You got to read through all these documents and you got to think about it. But if you really look for some of those commonalities, even if you don't address every single document in your thesis, as long as you're answering that writing prompt and using material from the documents to do so, guys, that's all we really need. Now, I'm going to give you a couple examples here on the next one, and then we'll talk about this, and then hopefully we have time to at least look at one essay. The CAP process seems really messed up, but I'm telling you, it's not. It's really not. You just got to get creative. You really do. So let's go back and let's do one or two of these. Let's look at document 1. Now, just looking at the source, you could come up with some stuff. I mean, you could come up with pretty easily, what I put down, probably the purpose of the document. So again, looking at the source and just scanning through it, you can kind of see some things. Advice given in 1500 by the Muslim merchants of Calicut to the Hindu ruler regarding the arrival of the Portuguese. Do the Muslim merchants want the Hindu ruler to hang out with the Portuguese and be cool with them? No. So that's going to cost him money. Again, the Muslim merchants have been the dominant force, the main traders. Now the Portuguese are showing up and messing everything up for them. So do you think that this Muslim merchant might try to make the Portuguese sound really, really bad? Like they're pirates? Like they want to take over? Like they're just these terrible people that, you know, the king, the ruler would be a fool to even hang out with and deal with? Guys, that's what we mean by purpose. Okay, you got to look at this person's agenda. Maybe the Portuguese really were doing that stuff. Maybe they weren't. So here's something I typed up, or I wrote this morning. And this is just an example. I'm not going to do every one. We may do one more, but I think this will show you something you could do. So here we're going to use purpose, but honestly, we could have used a bunch of them. So what do I have here? The purpose of this, God, I'm a terrible typer, document is to convince the Hindu ruler and again, forgive my misspellings, of Calicut to stop trading with the Portuguese. Misspelled and uncapitalized and all. Okay, so you've identified the purpose. And it's pretty clear that that's what's going on. You just got to kind of read between the lines, right? But that's not quite enough, because that really is, if you just read it, that's pretty obvious. Now you got to get into why it's significant. Why might this guy's agenda kind of shape what's in the document? Because again, we don't know that this is true. People lie. People have a bias. People are trying to accomplish stuff to meet their own needs all the time. So let's look at this. Why is it significant? What did I put? Man, this is a long one. I don't even know if I want to type it, but yeah, I will. I will this one. Then the other ones I'll just read to you. Okay, so this is significant because Muslim merchants had previously been prominent in Indian Ocean trade, which, again, just reading between the lines, you would know. Prominent. And let's just put trade. And likely feared the Portuguese would negatively impact their profits. And then maybe I would even add in, so the merchants claim the Portuguese are nothing but pirates. Who are not to be trusted. And I don't know if that's true. They may have known for the fact the Portuguese were pirates. They probably were. I mean, you look at some of the other documents, and it sure seems that way. They're stealing people's stuff. They're sinking ships. So he might be, given a factual account, but it's also possible he's making them sound worse than they really were, because man, them showing up, that is messing up his business. That's messing up his game. Again, I don't know any of that for a fact, but it makes sense. And that's all you got to do when you cap these documents, guys. You choose one of these things and you kind of build a little speculation on. You draw some conclusions from it. And as long as you go into enough detail and really make an argument that kind of illustrates how one of these things could have shaped or altered the document's content, guys, that's all you got to do. You need to do that 3 times for 3 separate documents, okay? So for 3 separate documents, you need to do one of these to get your sourcing point. But honestly, if you have time and the ability, I would do it for more than 3 documents. That way, if you mess up, you still get the credit. Again, you got to use your imagination. Now, my typing is apparently atrocious, so I'm not going to type these next ones, but I'm going to go over them real fast, okay? And you can just kind of listen and think about it. Let's look at document 2. I did the first 3 like this because it just made sense. So for document 2, that's the one that's from Barbosa, I believe. Yeah, from Barbosa. He works for the Portuguese government. He's writing, this travel narrative, talking about his adventures there. This is probably going to get read by other Portuguese, maybe by the king himself. Yes. Yeah, go ahead. So what I put, okay, and just kind of look at the document and listen. The point of view is a Portuguese government official, Duarte Barbosa, okay? All that is identifying who he is. Okay, that doesn't tell me much. That's not enough to get you the point. But then if you can maybe speculate why, this person's identity, who they are, might impact what's being said, you're going to be in good shape. The fact that he works for the Portuguese may help to explain his tone as he clearly praises the King of Portugal and the overall strength of the Portuguese in India. Since the king would likely read the narrative, it is possible Barbosa is overstating their power and influence in the region. I mean, he's kissing the king's butt. When we discovered India was already there, dude. But he's making it sound like they've accomplished so much that they ran off the Muslim traders. Maybe that's true, maybe it's not. But he knows the king's going to read this. He wants the king to think he's doing a good job. That's just natural human nature. So maybe he makes things sound a little bit more rosy, more accomplished than they really were. We don't know that that's true, but it sure as heck might be, and it makes sense to bring it up. So again, go into some detail. Use your imagination. You're just looking at how some of these factors might impact what's said in the document. The final part. Now, I don't know if we're going to get to read the essays today. We might move that to Monday because I do want to look at a couple of these. Context and thesis. Well, we kind of already discussed the thesis. You're just plugging in what you're seeing in the documents. They transformed a maritime trade, or you can maybe say, not that much, by going in and supplanting Muslim traders and charging taxes and building trading posts and taking over the trade in luxury goods. You're using something to that extent. But then you got the context. Think about what you know about this time period. Think about why the Portuguese are trading. I mean, when I put down some bullet points, I thought, this all really started with the conquest of Constantinople about 100 years earlier, 1450s. And that caused Western Europeans to look for alternate routes to Asia to access trade and luxury goods like spices. You could talk about how while the Spanish went to the West and discovered the New World, the Portuguese sailed around Africa. You want to get really specific, you could talk about Bartolomeo Diaz making it to the tip, and then eventually in the late 1400s, Vasco da Gama making it all the way to India, and thereby Portugal becoming the first European nations directly engaging in Indian Ocean trade. And then you can segue right into your thesis. In doing so, the Portuguese transformed maritime trade in the Indian Ocean, and then list out what you got. Again, this is time consuming. It is kind of a pain in the butt, but these essays are totally doable. They just take a while to set up. I'm thinking on Monday, I'm still debating, but I would like us to at least read a couple of the essays. I would like us to look over the rubric as a group now that we've kind of been through this, and just see kind of what we're thinking, what an actual essay that was submitted to the College Board and tried to do these things, what that looks like. So I think we're going to move, the essay reading, which I've got the essays under today's date, but we're going to move that stuff, and we're really going to access that on Monday. And then after Monday, because I do want to get into that, we'll get into our new material. We'll start with something called the Enlightenment, kind of leading up to 1750 and 1900. And then the rest of the week, we'll at least start introducing some of the political revolution stuff. Again, not the most exciting, I admit, but it's important. We're going to do DBQs in this class. We always look at documents in this class. And if you're taking the AP exam, the DBQ essay is a major component. But I'm telling you, if you just take the time to kind of read the documents and think through it, there's a lot of different ways you can go. Again, address the prompts, use evidence from the documents to prove that you're right. That's all there is to it. Any questions about what we did today? Again, not the most exciting, but important. Okay, it looks like most of you are still awake. Actually, all of you are still awake. Yeah, you guys did a good job. If you didn't finish this, obviously you need to get it done prior to us finishing and turning in notebook check number 2. But if you're done with it, which hopefully you are, we went through a lot of it together. Man, you're free to just kind of hang loose for the last 5